Hey, so I'm Oliver. To give you some background on myself, I've been in the space now for about 6 years. I've done loads of weird things in the crypto space. I ran a news site called CoinJournal for a bit. I was a miner at one point. But yeah, today I'm going to talk to you about our toy project. I presume with it being an NFT focus, there's no real reason to kind of explain how NFTs work. So I'm mostly going to talk about kind of what we've done in the first year, how the project works, and the reason really why it exists. Oh. So CryptoKaiju is really, really young. We actually only started like last November. I think it was November the 28th, 2018. As you can see from the numbers, we're actually really quite small, but in under 12 months, we had to sell 5 different batches of toys, and with different colorways and SKUs, that's about 9 different styles, which is pretty good for a toy company. We've minted 463 NFTs, but this is still growing and doesn't actually include the kitties that we're still minting or the deal that we just did with the Sacramento Kings, so the NBA Kaijus. We're on target to hit around 700 by the end of the year. In traditional NFT numbers, this is actually pretty small, but in terms of what we actually do and it being really, really very niche, it's not bad. It's not bad for a toy company in the first year to get that many toys out. So we're pretty pleased with the results so far. 210 individual addresses own Kaiju, which shows how engaged our small community is, with people returning to buy the new toys. You can kind of see at the top, we've kind of got some fairly big holders. One of those, though, is me. It's just not that I hold my own toys. It's simply a case of we actually, as well as kind of crypto people being interested in us, we also get quite a bit of interest from actual just vinyl toy people who have absolutely no interest in Ethereum whatsoever, to the point where we actually say, hey, have you got an Ethereum address? And they're like, a what? So we just kind of send them a disclaimer that says, we're going to store them here on a Trezor. If you ever actually do want to claim your NFT, just get in touch. Another interesting thing to point out is that we never ever rank on DApp sites. So some of you may never have heard of us because we are never ranking high on any DApp sites because we actually just we take payments via Coinbase Commerce, not via smart contract. We just use the smart contract to actually mint the NFTs. So we actually have no transaction volume whatsoever. So I'll talk a little bit about kind of why we approached this in the first place. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with BlockRocket and Known Origin. Yeah, there's a few. Good, that's good. So BlockRocket and Known Origin are both based in Manchester. Ooh, hello. Hello. I think I'll need it. It's really hot up there. I don't know why it's so hot. So I met with those guys just before they launched in, I think, 2018, and we talked a little bit about what they were trying to accomplish. I really liked it. I've been interested in vinyl toys for years and years and years. I've been collecting so much weird, wonderful stuff since I was in my teens. And I sort of mentioned at the time, hey, we should try and actually do this for vinyl toys, building a kind of provenance product around vinyl toys to improve how we handle authenticity or provenance could be a cool idea. At the time, it was a little bit of a far-fetched idea, but I spent the summer kind of working on it, and we came up with a pretty good solution. But, it was hard. We kind of had to look at these 4 things to begin with. How do we actually make a toy unique? And that's not as simple as you'd actually think. We sort of put out a kind of release of 100 toys. You can't make every single one of those physically unique. In terms of economy of scale, it's absolutely impossible. I think every single factory in the world would laugh you out the doors if you turned up and said, yeah, I want 100 toys, but each of them to look different. how do we actually ensure that physical toys the same one represented on the blockchain? That's pretty hard. You could have that guy, but how would you actually know that that guy is the guy on the blockchain but representing one NFT and not a very an identical version next to it? How do we stop people swapping the physical provenance? And you see this quite a lot with designer vinyl toys. So people will actually have the real version of the toy, but they'll then go and buy a fake, but they'll have the real packaging. They'll just package up the fake version and the real version and just flip it. How do you actually get around that? And how do we actually make a toy unique on the Ethereum blockchain? How do you actually even link it all together? So the kind of solution we came up with was, we looked at so many different things, from etching to actually just putting it in packaging. We thought originally, you could just put it in the packaging, but my issue there was you could just swap the packaging. Again, no one's realistically gonna fake these because they're really, really small run. It's 100 pieces, and it would cost more to fake it than you'd actually ever make back. But we approached the project from the idea of actually art provenance, or if you actually were a big toy company, how you'd actually work with something like this. And the actual solution we came up with was NFC tags. But even NFC tags are not a great solution, at least on the outset. Looking at them, most tags have no actual unique identifier. If they do, it's quite easy just to overwrite it. They don't store a lot of data. And more importantly, you can just tear them off. So going back to the original point then, if you had a fake one and a real one, you could just tear it off, just stick it on another one, and you really wouldn't know the difference. So we did a lot of reading around that, and we found a company who does chips, and it's actually Philips. It's a spin-off of Philips. It's NXP. They've got some really good chips that actually have unique identifiers. They've got anti-collision measures in place to ensure that every single chip has a unique serial number. So we actually decided just to use those. The simplest solution was going to be that we'd use the unique identifier. I think someone might want to come in. I don't know. Or is she just knocking on the window? So we would use a unique identifier in terms of a chip, and we would then attach it. But you still don't get around the issue that it could be unique, but you could just tear it off, stick it to something else, and that would then, in theory, be attached to the NFT. So we worked with a factory who actually just built these in a way that the aerial kind of goes around the chip. So the second you actually try and remove it, it will tear. Didn't do too well with that on the first toy, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail when we sort of get to that slide. But we are getting better at it. I kind of demonstrated it downstairs before, and I really wish I hadn't. I really wish I'd kept it so I could demonstrate it here. It was a damaged toy, and I actually demonstrated how the tamper resistanceness works. So yeah, that's kind of the solution to it in a minute. So we use the unique identifier, then we use that within the smart contract. The contract is made up pretty much of unique identifier, token ID, and then all the fluffy stuff like token name, the actual kind of image of it, or the traits and skills which we use, which are very similar to like attributes on CryptoKitties. We just store via IPFS, so it's still completely decentralized, but we just don't lock up the smart contract with all that stuff. So I'm just going to talk you through kind of the toys we've worked on, and give you a little bit more detail on how things work and the sort of issues that we faced when developing this stuff. So I don't actually have one of these with me because I don't take them anywhere because I've only got one and I'm so worried about losing it. Genesis was our first toy, and it was based on a physical print and NFT we actually did on known origin, which is there. Genesis was limited to 120 pieces over 2 colorways, with purple being rarer. And that sold out in around 40 days. I don't have any examples of it with me. I do have a pretty recent toy we've done, which is the Halloween one. You can see that the actual tags, it's sort of stuck to the bottom. It is hard to remove, and you are pretty likely to actually break it, but you could get around it. It's not as secure as we'd have kind of liked it. But people really, really, really like this toy. Sold out in 40 days. and then they were going for around about $300 on the secondary market. It's made from soft vinyl as well, which is different to a lot of the stuff we've worked with recently. That itself paints a lot of different problems. But yeah, it's sort of now become like the design we're most synonymous with. And though we'll never release this toy again, we have used the dinosaur again. So we've used it in the recent Sacramento Kings collaboration. And we've used it in the glow in the dark because people just keep demanding it. So the second guy we did was, well, I'll give you some advice to start off with. If you're from Manchester, don't give something a Japanese name because you actually can't pronounce it. So we just call it Giant Token, but it's actually Giant Token or something. It's, yeah, if you're from Manchester, just give things straight names. So Giant Token was released at the beginning of March. It came in 2 different flavors, Bitcoin and Ethereum. But as you can kind of see from this, we placed a bit more of an emphasis on the provenance and actually getting it right. So we've actually introduced these sort of wells that we have on the kitties as well, just for the tag to sit properly. It's really, really hard to remove these without breaking the aerial. So the toy's made from a mix of hard and soft vinyl, and like I say, it's the first toy where we really overhauled the tag, making sure that it actually sits in a well. Third design is the, whoa, that is really scary to look at like that, is the CryptoKitties. We get a lot of people asking us kind of how we actually came across this, because it's Dapper, it's CryptoKitties, they're kind of the biggest, well, we're the biggest NFT going, and we are relatively small and make vinyl toys, and how it sort of came about. They knew about us anyway. There was Kaiju in their office. I think a few people that worked at Dapper had them in their office to begin with. We approached them back in March and we said, hey, how about we do this? And they said, oh, we've actually got an open source license. So if anybody actually ever wants to work with like a Dapper property, go and look at their NFT license. It's amazing. You can do so much with it. You can actually just commercialize your own products based on their designs, as long as you cryptographically own the asset up to 100K. But they were really good to work with. We didn't actually approach it as an official collaboration to begin with, but the team were really good in actually helping us, even with molding and just sending them prototypes and saying, hey, what do you think of this? And yeah, there it is. But we had to kind of give it a bit of a different approach. With Kaiju, obviously, with like a standard Kaiju, obviously we own everything. We mint the token exactly how we want, so we have control over kind of name, description. The only kind of variable really is the NFC. With kitties, it was a little bit different because it wasn't our property. So there was a couple of different considerations. So the first thing was, do we actually want the kitty do we actually want the physical cat just to be after one of the, like a generic cat that we own? And we didn't really like that approach. We didn't think it was really in the spirit of the project, whereas, there's actually an NFT that backs it in a minute. We would just be sort of making an NFT on top of CryptoKitties that would just be this sort of generic cat. So what we actually did was, because we really like to make our lives terribly, terribly difficult, was we actually went out and bred a load of similar cats. So we own like hundreds and hundreds of cats that either look like that or look like the blue one. It's pretty interesting when you do that in terms of looking at sort of traditional toys and then looking at kind of Ethereum and NFTs and building sort of decentralized toys. You actually have to factor in a success rate for breeding a cat that looks similar to your vinyl toy into your actual price point, which is really weird. That's when you start to reassess your life. You're like, what the fuck am I doing? We actually did all right. We had a relatively high success rate. As you sort of get down the generations, you're smashing them out. So what we kind of did was, there's a couple of different ways we could have taken we could have kind of approached the CryptoKitties thing. What we actually decided to do was like a blend. And that sounds horrible, but we sort of put a CryptoKitty into a blender and then sort of merged it in with what we've got. So what we end up with is we basically pull everything in via CryptoKitties or OpenSea's API. So we pull in like, from the actual CryptoKitties ID, where was it? So we pull in from the kitty ID. We pull in things like date of birth, color colour secondary, class, basically all of the details. And then we add in our own traits over the top. So we've got the NFC, and then we've got the traditional Kaiju traits which we use, which are skill and class. So you're basically, can't see it on here. I must have cut it off. But you can also see, well, you can sort of see it actually. You can see that we've actually got a kitty ID there. But in the smart contract, you can actually see a link, a link on IPFS to the actual original kitty. So we kind of got a kitty and then sort of chained this other sort of kitty on steroids with these additional traits onto it. When we sort of conclude this batch, we aim to send everyone the kitty as well. So a lot of people are getting these in the post at the minute. In fact, is there anyone here called Sparrow? Yes, that's your toy. Yes. Yes. I'm staying in Shoreditch. I was like, I am not taking it all the way to Shoreditch. So that's your toy. And that's also your toy. Well done, thank you.
You can scan it and demonstrate them.
I can indeed. So yeah, you'd literally, if you were to actually do it, you would just scan the foot. It'll give you an NFC ID. You type it into our DApp, and it will bring up that. The other kind of issue we faced with CryptoKitties was, we were kind of minting this hybrid token, or this kind of hybrid NFT, or as people are calling them these days, meta NFTs, I guess. But it would just look like a CryptoKitty. It would, you'd have the CryptoKitty, we'd be pulling in the CryptoKitties in all the information, including the image, but it would just look like a CryptoKitty with a CryptoKaiju. So we kind of had a bit of discussion with them, and we had a bit of a discussion amongst ourselves about what we could add in, and we actually just decided that the differentiator would just be a nice little bandana. But yeah, it's a sort of another weird consideration that you don't really think about until you're actually quite deep into it.
Like a genetically modified CryptoKitty.
Yes, it is. It's sort of like
Inserted some genes.
yeah, we basically souped up CryptoKitty. It's what, sorry?
Pimp my kitty.
Pimp my kitty, yeah. So there's quite a lot of those out at the minute, but yeah, it was an interesting way to approach it. It seems to have worked. The other thing is, Dapper's license is really, really good, but if there is still a license, there are these sort of walls that you have to sort of work within. So it was quite difficult to find a solution that made them, they were happy with, and we were happy with. This is kind of it. And just kind of demonstrates it in a little bit more detail. So this is Tiger Proud Bum. As you can see, 1665439, and then there we go. 1655439. All the traits are basically pulled in, so it's the same cat. It's just a NFT of an NFT.
Is their license like a GPL? So your license is can be no more restricted than their license?
I don't actually know because I'm not a lawyer.
I have a kitty, right? Do I breed that and add another layer?
Oh, could you? Yeah, in theory. Yeah, it's a good question. Where would the license actually lie then? Would it lie with Kaiju or would it lie with kitties? I don't know. It would be really cool if you could breed them as well, but you can't. You could breed your kitty though. So yeah, this brings us to kind of the last things we've done. So we returned to Genesis. Just did a glow-in-the-dark version, mostly because people just kept asking us to do the design again. We knew we were already working on the design, but it's a really small run. This is with the Sacramento Kings, and we actually get asked quite a lot about how this sort of deal came off. If anyone knows, it's like technologically advanced sports companies in America, and they've constantly got their finger on the pulse. They've taken like Bitcoin and Ethereum at the stadium for years. They're working with Block Party on a project. And every year they just pick sort of like tech projects they'd like to work on. And they actually got in touch just after we launched Genesis in January. And we just kind of took it from there. We're really pleased with it. We kind of adapted the design a little bit as well. Because Genesis is soft vinyl, the arms are detachable. with it being soft vinyl, they are fairly detachable. They can just come off. It's really a nightmare to package. Obviously, with a product that we're not actually distributing and don't have as much control with, we just decided to do it in harder vinyl, sort of a more matte finish, and it's come out really, really good. But what they're doing with it is really interesting. So rather than just selling them in the store or something like that, they're using the actual NFTs as like prizes. So you might scan it. You might then go and get the NFT, and the NFT will mention that you've won, say, a jersey or tickets to a game. So they've used NFTs in a really interesting sort of commercial way, which I thought was pretty cool. I think we'll start to see a lot more of that over the next few years as well. There's definitely going to be sort of bigger brands coming into the space. You only have to look at kind of who invested in the recent Dapper blockchain. I think that was Warner, to see kind of where we're heading there. But I think, personally, NFTs are the most commercial, mainstream thing we're going to get within cryptocurrencies. And just from a marketing background, from a marketing perspective, they're just so cool. There's just so much potential. So the real question is, like, why did we even really do this? Well, yeah, it's fun. NFTs are fun. But if you actually look at like the actual collectibles market, which is supposedly worth around 200 billion, which I'm not really sure how true that is, because when I Googled it, there was various different sort of numbers. They're all pretty high. But the collectibles market, you know, it's really, really, really easy to lose physical documents like certificates of authenticity. Certificates can be forged. You know, we see a lot of that. And it's especially difficult with older pieces. When databases are used to store information, the information is centralized and not accessible by everyone, and the process is really, really timely, and actually kind of holding and maintaining a database of who holds a collectible, who holds an art piece. So I think in time, I think Ethereum or blockchain is a pretty good solution to how we improve art provenance and authenticity. I'm not saying we have like the ultimate solution, but I think this is a really good first attempt at sort of chipping away at provenance and authenticity just within kind of vinyl toys. The argument is that small run vinyl toys actually don't need that much authenticity because people just don't copy them, which is true. But as I said before, we didn't really approach this from the perspective of our own product. We were looking at the kind of, you know, Cores, James Jarvis, stuff like that, things that people are actually ripping off and you can just buy copies of on Alibaba. There's a market there. So yeah. That's it. That's a really bad desktop. I'm so sorry. Really quick. But sorry, I wrote that to be half an hour and then I forgot how quickly I speak. Yeah, of course. Please fill it with questions. I'm going to unplug this because that's going to drive everyone insane. At home, I use this computer and it's just literally a desk. It's almost just like a desktop. It's plugged into 3 monitors and it's just stuff everywhere. Look. Yeah, I'm just going to unplug it. It's going to drive everyone absolute mental. I promise you, I'm actually not that disorganized. Hey.
How often do you release new patches?
It kind of varies. So Genesis was last November, and to be honest with you, I thought we'd only probably sell about 30 Genesis, and we sold 120 in 40 days, and I was absolutely amazed. We then bought this guy out in March. CryptoKitties came out in August. These guys came out 2 weeks ago, and the Sacramento Kings thing's really sort of not out. It's announced, but it's not out. So I'd say probably every 3-4 months. There's also been stuff that we actually built and never released. We had a plush CryptoKitty, which is the most horrifying thing you have ever seen. My niece absolutely loves it. My niece is like, "Can I have it?" I'm like, "No." My sister's like, "Please, no." It's horrifying. We also built a Doge toy that never really made it past it's actually in the sticker packs. It's never really made it past sort of prototyping, but I think we probably will run next. So probably, yeah, to answer it, probably about every 3 or 4 months. I'm having a kid soon though, so maybe I'll have a little bit of time off. I have done 5 or 6 toys in a year. Hello.
How did you get into vinyl toys initially?
Oh, because I'm just really sad. How did I get into vinyl toys? I really liked like old Godzilla toys. And then I sort of moved into like the more expensive stuff, like, you know, Core. I used Cores as an example twice there. But Cores, before he was like really, really big and was doing crazy art projects, I had loads of Core stuff. I don't know, probably from, I don't know, music. I was at one point really into streetwear, and the sort of things fit next to each other. I still like trainers, but I'm wearing an Ethereum t-shirt tonight. It's not that street, is it?
That's trainers, though.
Thank you very much. Hey, oh, sorry.
What's going to be your next one?
I'll probably do Doge, just because it's half finished. Doge, and I'm really, really keen on exploring the ideas of just doing seasonal versions of these again. I really like this toy. The only problem is I'm just really not satisfied with kind of how that sort of sits compared to like the more recent designs, where I feel like we have got them a lot more tamper resistant. We could look at doing that again and maybe exploring it. We'd have to change the mold a little bit. Changing the mold a little bit, we'd just have to do a longer run. We just didn't get a lot of time on the Sacramento Kings stuff at all. Ideally, I'd have liked to have changed the foot a little bit. It works, but there's a lot of room for improvement. I am much more satisfied with that sort of solution where it's almost within a well. We just didn't have a lot of, we didn't have a lot of time with those guys to actually develop it, but at some point, if we are to put out seasonal versions of them, I would like to address that and improve it a little bit. So yeah, you might get a Valentine's one or there won't be a Christmas one.
Really collectible, isn't it? Because people want to get involved.
Yeah, well, people do, and like when we went back to sort of a chart of token holders at the beginning, we do have people who they just go wild and they'll buy 5 and they'll have them all. So, there's a little bit of speculation within it as well. People seem to buy them to speculate, and I'm not that down with that. Just because, you know, I don't really like the idea of people, not to sound like Banksy or anything, but buying and flipping art. I feel like you should buy stuff that you actually enjoy. And we actually had this debate on Twitter the other day. Someone was like, are they collectibles or are they toys? And I was like, what's the difference? I don't care. If you buy one and it puts a smile on your face, or it's sat in your house and you send me a picture of your kids playing with it, I don't care if it's out the packaging or not. I'm just happy that someone's getting something from it. Hello.
Hi. So you have a really good business example here of something that uses a blockchain.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously, it's beyond proof of concept because you've got physical products and things going on. But obviously, it's a model which can be scaled and used with other things like art pieces or diamonds. Actually, met someone who's involved in diamond provenance, and they've got quite a
Oh, wow.
solution where they've got machines which are basically creating a signature from the actual makeup of the diamond as opposed to inscribing serial code. It's incredible. But for example, if we applied this model to like an art piece or something, and I bought a piece of art or a kitty and sold it to someone else, I'm still trying to get my head around what's publicly available and stuff. Like, obviously, we need to deploy a smart contract or make a transaction through someone on a smart contract gets compiled down to bytecode. But information about who's owned the items before me, is that publicly available?
Yeah, it's all publicly available. It's all public Ethereum, so you could just literally, you could even just use OpenSea. You could go on, you could look at the piece, you could see who's owned it before, who it's transferred from to, and then if you actually wanted to transfer it to yourself, it would just be as simple. It wouldn't be as simple as what I was about to tell you, which was just, just transfer the token. What we're actually looking at in a minute is ideas around being able to trade something in the post. So if you were like, I really want this kitty now, but it's sold out, and I say, all right, it's X price, how would transfer it to you? And we're sort of looking at some ways in which we can introduce escrow, maybe some kind of ZSNARKs sort of stuff, so that we wouldn't release it until you got a code at the end that you entered, So we are doing some stuff around that, but it's quite a way off at the minute.
Shifting that data, I mean, it's probably part of a bigger debate, isn't it? But can that ownership information be encrypted in a way that only the person who's owning it at the time can see that, but they can see that the provenance is there, and only use DKPs to show something, for example, where it's been, but not actually who the ownership.
Yeah, there probably is. I'm not actually that.
Not with ERC 721, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
So, what happens if you lose your private key? Do you lose the ownership also of the physical object? You're not able to sell anymore?
Pretty much, yeah. Look at it this way. Look at it this way. You get a painting, your house sets on fire. You get out of the house with the painting, but your certificate of authenticity sets on fire. It's exactly the same thing. You know, you've lost your certificate of authenticity. You know, you've still got some proof that you got it, and at least you'd have some basis there to prove that I actually did hold this at some point because you can see X, Y, and Z. But you wouldn't actually hold the proof anymore. You would still have a token there, and you could actually see, yeah, I did that. We could introduce things like actually signing addresses and stuff like that, which may alleviate stuff like that. But yeah.
So I have a question on top of that. Can you make a backup?
Can I make a what? Sorry.
Can you make a backup on a piece of paper, or so that if you're back out file?
Yeah, you just back. I guess you just back up your private key, wouldn't you?
Okay. So you still have the CryptoKit, the digital version?
You still always have the physical version, but your digital kind of NFT, which is the provenance, would be lost if you lost your private key.
No, but if that toy is destroyed, you still have the digital. Yeah, it's still in your wallet.
Yeah, true. You could destroy that, and you wouldn't. You still have a provenance for it. But you know, the tag ID is still there. The serial number of that can't be changed. So.
Can you copy the NFT tag?
No.
Oh.
The serial numbers set by the factory, they come. You can't alter them. So no. So you just have a token. Sorry. Oh, it's still nice to have a token.
Like a ghost version.
Yeah, a ghost version. Yeah, maybe we could do that. We could do some. We actually have it. Sometimes I make mistakes, and before they've kind of confirmed, I have to burn them, and there's just this kaiju graveyard that exists. Hey.
Question. I'm interested to hear your opinion about the secondary market for NFTs. So, you know, like in exchanges where we're trading Bitcoin and stuff, it's fungible. We can buy, sell. With an NFT, it's typically only valued at what someone may want to buy it at. So is it like, do you see it being more auction based, or what's your opinion so far that you could maybe, if you wanted to get rid of it, not that you should, but if you would want to get rid of it for profit a few years down the line, how do you see that happening?
I don't know. I think there's two different approaches. The stuff that we've seen sell so far has been Genesis, and like I said before, we've seen Genesises that have sold for like $300, just because people bought 2 or 3 when it came out, and then when people are actually still interested in this, let's flog it, and they went by auction. We don't actually see a lot of activity on like OpenSea, but you would think auction, yeah. But then again, you know, people, we have like a Telegram group, and people do sell them now and again, and we just literally sell them amongst one each other.
Do you believe CryptoKaiju should actually partner with some of the big toy manufacturing companies? Like, for example, they have an original Mickey Mouse or something that can go mainstream, or should you also only tokenize the actual products that were built on the blockchain itself?
No, I agree with you. I think, we built this almost as a proof of concept, and then really enjoyed it and kind of span it out into characters. And for me, how I kind of look at CryptoKaiju is there's almost like this cute brand there that I really love, where you can just sell these characters and people will buy them. But I think there actually is a serious piece to be had. With kind of how we approach the NFC at the minute, we just literally get a tag ID. We get the tag ID, we know that's the unique identifier. We then write a text layer over it, which is a really, really rudimentary way of doing it. Because if you had an Android device, can actually get serial number, whereas iPhones don't get an NFC serial number. So you have to write a text layer on top of it. We know it's right because you can see it and you can actually see the serial number, but it's a really rudimentary way of doing it. Really what we'd build is some kind of validator that kind of looked at it, said this is a valid token, looked it up on the blockchain, yada yada. But yeah, there actually is the stuff there that could be done in terms of going to brands, you know, even, not even like really big companies, not like Disney, but people like Janky, Superplastic. No, Superplastic are a really good example of a small, is anyone familiar with Superplastic? Like Jankies? Okay. Who's familiar with Kid Robot? Yeah, so it was a spin-off of Kid Robot. He quit. He went and he did Jankies. So Jankies are actually, you know, they're actually really, really small in terms of the amount that's produced, but they are being copied already. You can buy fake ones on Alibaba, stuff like that. So for someone like that, it would be absolutely ideal. Because, you know, for someone like Disney, yeah, fraud is a big deal, but is that really the way to combat it? I don't know, it's debatable, but for a young startup such as like Superplastic, maybe even Kid Robot, you know, they don't have that much volume compared to the likes of Hasbro, Disney. That's when fraud actually starts to mess up with your business, sort of hinder things, because people aren't really bothered. They'll just go and buy a copy of it. They're not buying your real product. And they're so small they can't really fight it, they can't police it. So for someone like them, yeah, it'd be a great preventative measure. I'd love to do something like that. If anyone knows, if anyone works for Superplastic or Kid Robot, just come and see me at the end. Or Disney, I will turn down Disney. Hello, Fanny.
Hey, have you looked at other unique identifiers other than NFCs? And like, I would love to know what you think of NFCs. If there's something better coming, or if it's still NFCs.
We've looked at a few things. I wouldn't know. I'd have to weigh it up. There are differing options and differing ways of doing things. We even looked at just etching originally, and we actually have seen people build sort of like statues and ornaments and sort of tokenize them, and they've just etched. NFCs not be all and end all at all. The advantage is not just specifically NFC, but if we were to build apps or introduce kind of more interesting features, it might be the sort of best route to take in terms of scalability. But it's not limited to that. There's loads of different ways we can do it. Hello.
I actually want to ask, I think, a follow-up on that.
Go on.
Have you considered, for example, QR codes or something?
Yeah, we did. QR codes.
So why didn't you go with that solution instead of?
Because they can just be copied so easily. You can photocopy a QR code.
Okay.
It was, but yeah, we even actually thought about we might do this at some point. We've even like started to speak to people about it. Is the idea of I really don't like having to sell someone the actual toy and then mint an NFT, send them the NFT. And I just think it's a really bad user journey. It's like it's just terrible. From a consumer's perspective, like, what if you want to gift your friend one of these? What do you do? Like, hey, can I get you a Ethereum address? Even if they do actually have Ethereum, hey, can I get you a Ethereum address? I'm going to send you a surprise. They know what it is before it turns up. So we actually have looked around the idea of maybe sort of tear off. There's a QR code underneath, maybe like a sort of advent calendar.
Didn't you have one at the beginning, like with non-origin, like the first one? Was there like a collaboration with non-origin that you had there? It was on the packaging?
It was, yeah, it used to say non-origin, now it says Block Rocket.
Okay.
We decided to formalize everything because it's not really non-origin, it's more Block Rocket.
I thought it was a QR code.
No, we did talk about some stuff like that, and we've talked to a couple of people about like redeemable QR codes, stuff like that. It is something we might do in the future. I just think it's a lot better user experience. It'd make my life so much easier than having to mint NFTs.
Obviously, collectibles, you want like the whole crowd or multiple of them. Is there any thought of doing like multi-sig, where you have to have like multiple collectibles to create one unique provenance for an item?
Not for this. I have thought of some really cool ideas, which I'll bore you to death with at the bar about that afterwards. But no, it's a really, really cool idea. You know, if you had I thought about ideas. Like I mentioned before, I think NFTs are really, really, really valuable marketing tools. And I have had some ideas before around, say you had a fashion line, you get an NFT with your hat, you get an NFT with a hoodie, but you can only get the exclusive t-shirt if you've got all 4 NFTs and you can log in and but yeah, I'd love to do that. Unlock something really cool. It could be like the Power Rangers where you get all the parts and put them together. Get some Mecha Godzilla, Mecha Kaiju. Hey.
Are you going to make an app for it where they can fight each other like Pokemon Go?
Oh, we get asked this so much. Everyone's like, hey, what are you going to do with it next? When are we getting the game? And it's like, you'd be surprised because this is really just a hobby. Which is really weird because we collaborated with big people. It's just really a hobby. It's not my full-time job or anything. Because it's just because small run vinyl toys, there's not actually that much profit in it. I'd love to build a game. We've even sort of drawn up concepts about like Animal Crossing, but with kaijus, which would just be a dream come true. But yeah, I would love to. Just building a game is so expensive at this point, and even with Block Rocket, even if we were just to push all our money into, or any profit we've earned into building a game, it's just a resource. We just don't have that sort of bandwidth at the minute. I'd love to though. If anyone wants to give me 25 grand or something to build a game, come and see me. Hey.
How long do you think it will be until we see NFTs in games like Fortnite?
Oh.
Main barriers to stop that happening.
We were having this discussion before. So something like Fortnite, it would be amazing. When we were at NFT NYC in February, there was a couple of games companies weirdly sniffing around. And I spoke to a couple of them afterwards and they were interested in, hey, could you do this? Because we would love to be sort of the amiibo of blockchain. I think that'd be a really cool place we could fit in. Like this really is a very, very, very rudimentary amiibo in the sense that, yeah, is CryptoKitties a game? Yeah, it is a game. It's one of the earliest examples of a game. We're moving on now. We're getting much sort of better gameplay, but we could call it a game. But you've got this, you've got the NFT with it. So it's a very, very rudimentary amiibo. But there were a couple of games companies sniffing around, and they were talking about, oh yeah, we've got this character, we've got that character. No one big. Did you see anyone big? I haven't seen anyone big. Oh, cool. Oh, wow. I think the, what's the game called that's sort of like Final Fantasy style RPG, but a little bit cypherpunk? Its name is really... Yeah, I think that's got some legs. I really do. Really good team. They seem to really get the tech, like the sort of things that they were doing with Lightning Network and stuff. That really excites me, but sorry, I've just waffled and waffled and waffled as I always do. To answer your question, he's not even listening anymore. He's turned off. He's so sick of my waffle and he's turned off. So it's cool. I can't do two things at once.
The thing that would be really interesting is to get a 3D model with your NFT.
We've actually. Well, it's actually really interesting. We actually were ever to go with a games company, not that we've kind of got skeletons applied, but I guess we could sort of apply rigs afterwards. Every single one of our toys or things we've ever done are all 3D modeled. So they're like half ready to go. Yeah, we've got loads of stuff kind of.
So what I need is a 32 by 32 by 32 voxel that I can stick in crypto voxels on display. Everybody can see it, want it, come get it.
Of that?
Yes.
I've got models. You have to paint them. They are just like polymer there. But there are really, on that note actually, there's really interesting ways to sort of paint over kind of STLs and stuff now. I can't remember what it's called. I'll look at my computer afterwards and I'll tell you. But there's ways that you can just sort of get blank. Well, basically, when our stuff is designed to be 3D printed or kind of prototyped, there's no colour on it, it's just white and they paint over it afterwards. But there are ways that you can sort of get really, you can paint over things really nicely. Especially what we did with the Sacramento Kings, because they were like, hey, we can't sign off on this unless we have prototypes. I was like, they're just white. And then hastily painted them myself. Hey.
Hi. So this is, I don't really understand the collectibles market.
That's
but
cool.
There seems to be an assumption of the NFT represents that physical object.
Yes.
So it's sort of touching on your point in terms of could the NFT represent the design of the object? Because I've heard of a work of art where it was description how to create that work of art. So the work of art was the description.
Cool.
And then you had museums creating that work of art. But I'm just wondering if the NFT could represent that design. So if you own the NFT, even if you created a copy of it, because you own the NFT, you own the original. So it's not related to the actual physical object, it's related to the design.
The NFT represents the IP.
Yeah. So if you copied it, but you had the NFT, then your copy of the physical item becomes the actual item, the actual NFT.
Not really, no, because it is very conceptual, and I love the sound of this, but the underlying issue would still be that the actual tag is still the actual tag that contains the serial number that's used in the smart contract still sits on the original piece.
Yeah, when you get rid of that, you just image it, and then anyway, it's just.
It's cool. I like it. It's we're getting so meta with NFTs these days. Hey.
I'm interested in the idea of how do you get past technological redundancy? So 10 or 15 or 50 years from now, how do we even know that we can access the system that gives validation?
It's a very good point. Will Ethereum even still be here? But the more serious point is how do you actually look after that tag? How do you know how many scans it's going to work for? We actually did a little bit of reading around this. They actually don't know. They can guarantee it for 100 years and say that it'll definitely last 100 years for tag. They don't really know after that point. I imagine it will last a lot longer, but we actually don't know. It is a really interesting point because if you actually think about the amount of art that's being put out these days or the amount of art that already exists, how would you actually apply technological improvements to provenance? I guess you'd have to introduce a system, and we do have the very sort of backbones, and it's a little bit clumsy at the minute, but a replacement system for these. So actually, to go back to your point before about burning down your house, if you actually did if you actually did have the NFT, but somehow you damaged this in a fire or burn it out, we can actually do in the smart contract some type of replacement where we issue with a new tag, but you can see that the old tag replaces that. I guess you'd have to do something like that. To be honest with you, I'm not thinking that long term, but it's a real important consideration for if actually, every single piece of art, physical art in the world was to be backed on a system like this. How would you actually do it? And you would have to introduce something like that.
Massive 30-year transcription, like 8 tracks. Can anybody even find an 8 track now?
It's probably not even that far away. Are you considering moving to Ethereum 2?
We've had a little. I work with the Block Rocket guys, and James absolutely loves ETH 2. James is just hardcore, just absolute genius guy. Talks about scaling quite a lot. But yeah, we will have to at some point. I still don't know.
What happens to the old tokens that are on Ethereum?
Well, I don't know. Ask Vitalik actually. How are we going to migrate ETH 1 to ETH 2? It still doesn't seem that clear to me.
What do you know about metadata?
IPFS. Everything's on IPFS, and we host our own IPFS node. Hey, Sasha.
Yeah, my question was about the Ethereum London 2. As I understand it, may end up being more of the same, but as I understand it, they're just going to transfer one to the other, so all the NFTs will be automatically moved to Ethereum 2 as long as 95% of the chain wants to move to that chain. Otherwise, they can split it, but it won't actually create 2 different chains. It's very Ethereum's managed to work quite well without having to do that.
As long as everybody moves.
which every single time they've done a hard fork, you remind me.
Yeah, let's not get into. Yeah, let's not get into that. Hello.
Sorry, another question. Just so you mentioned the prices and the use of NFT by the Sacramento Kings.
Yes.
How are they going to sell the toys?
They're actually not. They're actually doing some really cool marketing things with it. I think that I'm not speaking. I actually don't know their full plan. They might sell some. I don't know. I'm not speaking on behalf of the Sacramento Kings. What they're actually going to do, I know what they're definitely going to do is a load of like cool online and I think in real life sort of scavenger hunts. So they use these, which is something I really, really like. You know, you're actually hiding a physical object. You get it. We had to change the sort of buying process a little bit and rethink it with the Sacramento Kings. The sort of scanning thing then would have actually been really useful. We're not really quite there with it yet. There's also other complications, and like I said, we turn it around really quick, this project. So what's going to happen is someone gets one with most kaiju just come in like a header card like that, apart from actually kitties. And I know a lot of people moan about it doesn't have packaging, but it just really can't fit in a bag. So what we're doing is, within the actual package itself, you actually get almost like a business card. It's got a QR code on it. It says, do not pull off this red sticker. By the way, we've only ever had one person pull off a red sticker, despite it saying on the instructions, do not. And he said, it didn't tell me anywhere. It didn't tell me. I said, yeah, it does. It clearly says, do not pull the sticker off. And then I looked up and he's a Bitcoin SV fan, so it says it all. Guy's got problems. So yeah, we had to kind of rejig it a little bit because they aren't going to be this core Ethereum or core crypto audience that we're selling to. They might not be aware. A lot of them will have Ethereum addresses just because crypto is so ingrained into the Sacramento Kings and their stadium anyway. But it's just literally QR code, form, type in your email address, type in your name, and Ethereum address, and we'll mint and send you an NFT. So kind of had to switch it out a little bit. Like I say, QR code thing would have been really useful.